Like 11:30. Jeez. Oh, welcome back to the Convo Couch, everyone. How we looking out there? How we smelling? Pasta Jardula here.
And I am Fiorella.
And Oz is on the ones and twos. Oz, how do I look? Do I look pretty?
You're always beautiful.
I want to make sure. Let me take a look and make sure I look pretty.
Tell him like his mama told him. Like she lies to him all the time. You're so beautiful. You're so beautiful, honey. You're so beautiful.
It's pretty ugly.
Well, fam. Oz, thank you so much, fam. Thank you for changing and putting on a different outfit for a different show. Appreciate it. Thought you'd come wearing that pink
You thought I was going to have my, my fancy
I
conservative outfit?
The conservative.
You know, okay, well, maybe this isn't the show for that. Maybe I'll have to come on the morning show and talk about why my boobs are a problem.
That would be more appropriate for the morning show, fam. We have a whole department for that type of that type.
Yes, invite Sugar Tits on when I have that conversation. I would like for her to be there.
I think she'll be there Friday, so you can. You know what? I'll sit back. I'll grab the popcorn and let you and Sugar hash it out. I don't.
Yeah. Boobs are rare in Russia. That's all I have to say. Very.
Damn. Damn. Some people wouldn't like Russia.
Stop. Anyway, guys.
What, you don't want to talk about this anymore? Is this getting embarrassing?
No. What somebody said, hey, you should wear more earth tones, because they go better with your skin. I'm like, yeah, but they want like bright colors in the studio. They don't want too much black, not green, obviously, and no earth tones. They're too.
No, you got to pop. You got to pop on
that.
Yeah, that's TV. Because you're out there, but then you're like, your eyes go focus right on you because you're popping. If you're very, low key and light colored, and you're very docile, you don't want that. You want bam.
You got to be very Italian about it, guys.
Yes.
Very Italian.
Yes.
Rip Pauly Sorvino.
Yes. Dude, I think it's awesome. It's so funny too, because like in the morning show, right? Like I get to get more analytical, take my time and whatnot. And then you yesterday, like over here in Russia with Lavrov, it's like, it's almost like we're in a role reversal. Like, like I would see you being more about the analytical and giving points, where I'd be more like, hey, welcome to RT in Moscow. We're at the top of the hour, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still awesome to see you do it. You're killing it, and you get to do some interviews there too as well. So I think it's awesome. I think it's a fun thing.
Yeah, I thought it was funny how they took the video that I shared and did a whole thing on it.
See, I was going to ask you that. I didn't want to expose them. I'm like, did you do that, taking that from them, or did they take that from you? Because I was going to say something as they were going through the whole CIA agent thing. I'm like, I wonder if she planted that seed, or if that seed was planted to her, and that's why she brought it to the show on Wednesday.
I did not, but I was extremely happy to find out that was being covered, because obviously we love talking about the CIA on the show. And it was really cool that I got to talk to John Kiriakou about it, but I would definitely need a longer interview with questions I didn't get a chance to ask, because there's not a lot of time. Everything's set. You have a 30-minute show. You have to get everything in there. And if they take too long to answer the question, you lose questions. And so it's just, that's just the way it works. And you're really time constrained. So I would like to talk more about it. But yeah, I thought that was funny. I'm pretty sure they saw that clip.
Well, I think it's such a great opportunity too for, not just the Convo Couch to be able to kind of intertwine, but RT2 as well. The fact that you're telling me that, and I'm so glad that you told me this, because I wasn't going to even ask you. But when I saw it, that's what went through my mind. I was like, are they kind of piggybacking off what was talked about on the show on Monday? Because that would be a smart thing to do, because, I'm saying, it would be like, okay, this is the way we take her, the political side, her research side, her reporting side, and we combine it with the anchorism, I'm saying? So now it's kind of like, It's something you know about. It's something you can talk a little bit more in depth about. You're already in that sweet zone. I think it's great management and great producing by RT to do that, whether it be vice
You should
versa.
see my face when I'm not on camera, though, when we're talking about the CIA stuff. Like,
imagine.
Yeah.
I can imagine. I mean, we had RT on our house a lot. I used to put it on, and it was constantly running. There was a lot of stories. I would start a lot of my stories there with RT. They're talking about this. Well, let me go a little bit further down the rabbit hole and see where
right.
And it's just so important to have other opinions and other type of media that are outside the American Western bubble. It's so important. So, I mean, kudos to that team over there, and it was a great segment, and it was like continuing. And then, like you said, now we have to get Kariaku on the show for a little bit more in depth and ask some more questions and stuff. And I think over here we have a little bit more leash and leeway than I would say probably RT will have at the end of the day, because we answer to nobody. You know what I'm saying? It's just me and you. You want to talk to the bosses, you're looking at them. So
that's right.
Yeah.
Well, so okay.
You ready to jump into it, fam?
Yeah, just speaking of Russia and
I'm a little bit upset though. I gotta say, I wore my nice purple shirt. I thought we were gonna match, kind of go purple pinkish.
I'm wearing the CONVO couch shirt.
You are? I can't even see.
Yes, you can't see because Oz always censors me. So you can't see it.
Oz is doing what RT is doing. He's keeping it professional, Sam. Thank you, Oz. Sam, we don't need to see the shirt. Let's go into the first segment.
Okay, so
your hair looks nice, by the way.
Thank you, fam.
You're welcome.
I didn't do it, so
I know.
Okay, so Vogue, wonderful magazine, right? Basically, just a giant. If you ever had a Vogue magazine, it's just a giant ad. Like giant ads everywhere. It's just ads of designer, blah, blah, blah. So, of course, Zelensky and his wife were going to have a whole entire Vogue photo shoot. And I mean, obviously, we talk about this being the dumbest timeline of all time. And I think that's correct. I just have pictures here because there's nothing else to really display this but pictures. But before we do the pictures, Oz, you can start cowboying that video. Because there's this video of how the behind the scenes of this photo shoot and how great it was. And, if a lot of people who have been involved behind the scenes of Vogue are the epitome of neoliberal politics. So there you go. Oh, look how beautiful and fashion war is, right? Isn't war just Vogue, like, so high fashion, fam. Like war, death, destruction, blood, imperialism, all of that. It's just so edgy for the fashion world. Let's just make an entire video.
So we all know how lately too, as well, how Zelensky's freaking out, right? He's got the blacklist going now, where he told freaking Rand Paul, Tulsi Gabbard, and Glenn Greenwald that they should be censored and arrested and everything for what they're doing. They shouldn't have a voice and stuff. And now, you hear talks of Lavrov going around saying, "Oh yeah, we'll help the Ukrainian people get rid of him and stuff." This morning or I think it was yesterday, this little cokehead munchkin, Zelensky here, and that's what he is. He's a cokehead munchkin. The fact that you have people like Ben Stiller going, "Oh, you're my hero." Like, yeah, go see Zelensky. They're going to let him play Zelensky, the older Zelensky, when they make the movie. Will be Ben Stiller will play older Zelensky. But the other day, literally, one of Zelensky's cabinet members said that CTI, I think it was Sherman Leeson. I think all these banks, Citibank and everything. He said that they should be prosecuted for war crimes because they do business with Russian oil businesses. Like, he's talking the bankers should do war crimes. And like, idiot, I know you're getting a little freaked out because you're probably running low on your cocaine, and that's what's making you go crazy, and you're starting to get paranoid, thinking that the Americans are going to remove you. But the people that you're asking to try for war crimes, those are the people who put you in power, Zelensky, you idiot. You'll be the first to go. if they're going to be in trouble. You, if we're going to hold the banks accountable, you're the first person we put behind bars for carrying out their work. The bankers, you asshole. Sorry.
Yeah, asshole.
Oh, by the way, so the theory is that they have to get Mrs. Zelenky to Ukraine, and they had to entice her with a photo shoot so she couldn't hang out in Miami. So now that she's here, that was the plan. So now the elites of the CIA got the wife over here, and now they can do what they want to do.
Do these people think that people aren't laughing at them right now? I think maybe a few years ago they could get away with this and nobody would blink, but at this point, let's just go through the photos, Oz, because it's really...
There's some beautiful photos there.
Yeah, okay. So I really love the pose here. You know, she looks fierce. She looks like she's sitting down, looking in front of the camera. You know, when I was younger, I really was a fan of not necessarily high fashion, but just like the aesthetic of it. So I'm really not lying here. I mean, this is a strong pose. And then this one right here, right, just shows so much unity right there. You got Zelenky, and I love the turtleneck on her, and the colors are just very muted to give us the essence of war and the grayness and the somberness. But there's light in here, right? You got Zelenky, the hero of the people, the servant of the people. And this is my favorite, I think, Pasta. I think this one takes a cake. So she's, you know, around these Azov battalion soldiers, essentially, right? And
all female,
and all of them. And by the way, they're in front of this plane that's been hit probably by, you know, the Russians, the evil Russians, and just her trench coat. I mean, that blue, fam. I was just, wow. It's just, you know, because that would really happen. That's what people want to see. Even Ukrainians, right? They really want to see Zelensky's wife. Wasn't she a model of sorts?
Yeah.
Posing like for Vogue as they're literally becoming cannon fodder for the Russians and making this whole feminist appeal, because Vogue's really great about that. The whole feminist fucking bullshit. And then, of course, you have the united couple holding hands in this whatever room that they're in. And last but not least, you know, this one right here. I mean, is that cocaine?
Fam.
Yeah, I don't know what else to say, guys. This is fucking ridiculous. I really don't have a lot to say, but everybody was talking about it, and it's hilarious, and it's sad, and it's gross at the same time. But I think every day we've gotten used to things getting a little bit more ridiculous. So I'm kind of like,
Fam.
This is
Fam. I'm striking a pose.
Fam, you look like a mime. But yeah, guys, I mean, this is what they're doing. This is why people are pissed, right? Obviously, because there's a war going on, there's death, destruction, and giving a photo shoot to this moron and his wife is just like an insult to these people.
Fam? Who is it for?
But this is for the neoliberal Ukrainian flag Karens out there saying they stand with Ukraine. And they love seeing this. This is exactly for that crowd, fam. This is exactly for them. This isn't for the Ukrainian people. This isn't for anybody that actually cares about Ukrainians. This is about them, feeding them the gossip. Oh my God, Zelensky. The people that have Zelensky candles and Zelensky body pillows and Zelensky like looking to watch his film. That's who this is for. And there have been some on Twitter that I wonder if they're okay, because the things they say about Zelensky are just really disturbing. Like they want him, like they're obsessed with him. And war is not a subject that's very, they're making a mockery out of this whole entire thing. I mean, they're making a mockery out of this whole entire thing of people losing their lives. And you expect, and we're funding. This is where your money ends up, guys. By the way, that's the last thing I have to say. A Vogue photo shoot. This is where your tax dollars go to.
Well, no, it also goes to this next picture.
Yeah. So these are the memes. And Steve posted this one. And I said I could get behind this one. This is the one I could get behind because this is the most accurate.
I was really looking. I was like, Steve, is that real? And he starts laughing, realizing that for a second I thought that was real. Like, I'm like, oh, it's photographed. It's Photoshopped.
Yeah, it's remember when they found all this money in these bags and stuff. Yeah.
that was the Mayweather shot. That was the Mayweather shot. Stupid. Oh God. Damn.
And I just want to point out that meanwhile, while this is happening, Zelensky is saying that Russia is using gas prices to terrorize Europe. So yeah, Russia is the one that's wanting to stop Europeans from using their gas. No, it's the Europeans trying to placate to the United States, willing to let, and they've, as I've talked about it, and as a lot of people have talked about it on RT, they've backpedaled on this because they know they are screwed if that happens this winter. And one of the things I was talking to some friends who have lived here in Russia, is that automatically the heater turns on here, I think by September. The heater turns on, everybody has heat. Nobody dies of being cold in Russia. Like they have the best heaters and the best heating system. And fam, I'm told it gets no more than 30 below zero for like two months.
Damn. 30 above zero is too much for me. What are you kidding me?
Fam,
have fun. Everybody out there, you
me.
see fam attempting to make this like a positive thing over here. Like, no, like enjoy it now. You and Rachel out there with your pictures and the flowers and the sun and the shine. Enjoy it now. Let's see how those pictures come in 3 months, you and Blevins. I want to see it. When it's cold as shit. It's only 10 degrees outside today. It's a beautiful Moscow winter. Please.
10 degrees
y'all
would be
are gonna
warm.
see Fiorella cry. Y'all are gonna see her cry, and the tears will freeze right on the cheek, each one.
But Russians have the best heater. That's my point, fam. They have the best heating, and it doesn't cost very much. Europe, on the other hand, terrible winters as well. Maybe not quite as cold as Russia gets, depending on where you're at. That's arguable, but to heat their entire homes, they're having to burn wood and burn other things.
They never retrofitted their house. They never adjusted to modern times. You know damn well the Chinese and the Russians have adjusted for modern times to find ways to heat buildings, to whole buildings, to insulate them during the winters much more better and effective than they did in Europe and the West. We don't have shit. We're still using railroad technology that's back from the 1960s. Meanwhile, you can get a bullet train from Beijing to wherever, who God knows, and just like that. It's like they've modernized, and I'm pretty sure they've modernized their winters to make sure that everything's okay and it's retrofitted for a nice warm winter. But still, it only gets to minus 30 degrees.
That's what they said. Only maximum. In other parts, it gets worse. I'm like,
fam,
okay.
At 30 above, you're done.
Fam, I know this.
You did when you went to Iowa. Remember when you went to Iowa and you were out there the first thing, and then we all went to New Hampshire together and stuff? And man, what was the coldest that we experienced? I can't remember. Has to be New Hampshire.
I think it was like 2015, 20 or 50. I think Iowa might have been colder than New Hampshire.
You guys had a crazy wind what do you call it? Wind chill factor? Yeah.
Yeah, I think Iowa was colder. But so guys, Europeans are gonna die. I mean, they're gonna freeze. And so Europe is like
Europeans are gonna die.
And it's expensive because even if you have the money to pay for it, I'm talking about thousands of dollars a month to heat your home. I mean, so Zelensky blaming Russia, saying that Russia's terrorizing them with talking about gas. Russia's just saying like, okay, you guys can can open up. Like, you guys can allow us to provide this gas, but if you don't want to, that's fine. We'll be fine. And everybody here says that. They're like, well, at least you're here. You're not in Europe, because things aren't looking good for them. So I am happy to at least be here for that.
That meme where it's a guy on a bike and then a guy sticks the stick through the spokes of the bike, and the next thing he's laying on the ground going, Russia. The DNC meme, right? Now the United States and the East and Europe and the West, they're doing it to themselves. This is the controlled demolition of the empire. They're doing this on purpose, and I can't believe they're allowing to get away with it. We did a small story the other day where Trudeau is about to go through with all these these bans on certain fertilizers, and it's intended to close the small guy up. How long until they have pitchforks at the gates with these guys? And the thing is, all those people that are kind of sitting down or getting out of the way, fam, who's replacing in Sri Lanka? They already picked their dude, right? Part of the parliament. A guy they've already complained, and they were chanting that he needs to pay a price. They put this guy in charge. Their parliament picked that. Wow. From one WEF guy to the next. And the three people who are on the lead right now to take over for Bojo, your favorite prime minister, fam, they are weffers as well. So it's like, yeah, we get rid of these people, but who's going in their place? And for somehow, in the United States, they've been able to spin it for a long time. Oh, we got Joe Biden. Joe Biden's going to be much better.
Yeah. I didn't even put the Joe Biden clips of him looking like, I don't even know, like subhuman.
It's time you start to admit that there could be more than one Joe Biden now.
Fam, I will not entertain that. No, I'm sorry, guys. But
they showed a clip of a dude, and not too long later, he blinked 12 times in 6 seconds. The clip that Joe Biden has, he doesn't blink once, fam.
Fam, you sound like our boy Alex.
It's true. It's true.
So, guys, should we do the next?
Let's go on to the next section over here. Anytime we're going to have Niko House on, he can just jump on in. This is Alex Jones here. We're at InfoWars. We got a new thing here. China, which is always the problem. China says the U.S. is crossing a red line if they send Nancy Pelosi a visit to Taiwan.
First of all, nobody wants Nancy Pelosi to visit them anywhere. I mean, it's Nancy Pelosi. She's probably drunk or on some sort of medication. But why does Nancy want to visit Taiwan, fam? Why? People were asking, like, why the hell does she want to go? So according to the AP, which we know from last time's show had a connection with the Nazis back in the day, they said that Pelosi has been a staunch critic of China throughout her more than 3 decades in Congress, once unfurling a banner on Beijing's Tiananmen Square, memorializing those killed in the bloody crackdown on pro-democracy protesters in 1989. She was also a strong supporter of the 2019 pro-democracy protests in Hong Kong. No surprise there. We all know this, making her a target of the criticism from Beijing. This is how the AP writes. Nancy wants to go there, fans, because the United States wants to control Taiwan, to destabilize China. That's why they're going to go. We've said this before the situation happened with Ukraine, that they were going to go after China next, because this is all about that. That's why this is all about this Cold War they're pushing, this nuclear type of prodding they're doing, right? Yeah. And according to the AP, and I believe this to be true, Taiwan enjoys strong bipartisan support in Congress. Yes, they do, because Congress is so anti-China that they might as well just, like, Sam, I don't know.
I don't think we should say they're anti-China. I just think we should say they are so pro-war, because it's not just, it seems like every single war, they're also anti-Russia. They're also anti-freaking anybody who doesn't listen to them. They are regime change aficionados. That's what we have. Even when we have a show, yesterday we had on Tim Canova, who's been critical of China. You know how Steven is with China. Even they say this whole kind of poking the bear with going to Taiwan is bullshit. Like, why?
You don't have to love China to be anti-war with China.
Yeah.
You don't and you don't have to agree with how they conduct their politics or their economy, their ideology. You can be critical of them, but this is a whole other thing. This is trying to wage war with this other superpower and trying to say that the United States isn't the right to do that. The United States has nothing to do with China's domestic issues. It's a sovereign country. Let China handle it. But the people can't understand that because they allow their China blinders to take them. Wow, China is going after this independent Republic of Taiwan and blah, 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 blah. The same thing they did with Hong Kong. And so that's how they get the progressives, and that's how they get even some of the neocons. Well, these people want to be free of China's authoritarian blah, blah, blah. It's well, is that your problem? And if you care about helping somebody, where's Yemen? Where are the Palestinians? I mean, it's just such bullshit. They don't ever have an answer to that.
Yep.
And Pelosi said it was important for us to show support for Taiwan. Oh, okay. And so Taiwan's President Tsai Ing-wen has defied Beijing's threats, and her administration has favored core democratic values and liberal policies close to Pelosi's heart. Really, what are those? Saying we feed them and not paying attention to your citizens where you live in San Francisco, that's her district, right? And people are literally stealing and breaking into places, and there's homelessness everywhere. Those are the policies close to Nancy Pelosi's heart, by the way, including, here it is, same-sex marriage and strong social security net. Okay.
Karl Rove, this is something we talked about several times on the shows. That at one point they wanted to make sure when it came to foreign policy, they got an all neoconservative Congress, right? So I think they sought out, and this is the plan, and I don't know who it is and stuff like that, but you got a bunch of Democrats in there now who will push back on social issues no matter what, the shit that really doesn't come to the forefront, to make themselves look so different when it comes to the Republicans. But yet, when it comes to foreign policy, when it comes to war, they are on the same page. We have a bunch of neoconservatives. Wouldn't this be a spot where we would think that the squad, right, which obviously now we're so down the path that we understand who they are, they're nothing but a bunch of freaking, to call them a psyop is not off the mark. It might be, whatever the case may be, they're definitely cowards or chickens or whatnot. But wouldn't this be a spot for someone, fam, to stand up and saying this saber rattling with one of the other nuclear powers is ridiculous? What business do we have messing with Taiwan? That we have a one China policy over here, we should let it be. Nancy Pelosi didn't go there. This is ridiculous. This is a time where you think that there's anybody who's anti-war within the government would stand up and say what's going on. I would even like to see some of the people who are anti-China come out and go directly the opposite of what Mitch McConnell and all these other assholes are saying, fam. But you don't have that.
No, you don't have that because, again, the United States, what's left in Congress is basically a bunch of imperialists or imperialist light. And even the ones that are, that say stuff about, freedom of speech or talk about not being interventionists. Well, when it comes to China, their China hater blocks are so strong that they know they're China is an authoritarian, blah, 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 blah. It's even if that's true, that's none of your business. It's none of this country's business. It's literally let the people of China handle it themselves. So China said that they were going to respond if the U.S. House Speaker goes and visits. And I don't think they're bluffing, guys. And she would be the second in line to the presidency. And so she is the highest ranking U.S. politician that would be visiting. And so I have a video here, if Oz can cowboy it. This is an important video. And the video is a Chinese official responding to the question of what is China, how does China feel about Pelosi going to China? And he answers very sternly about how China feels. So, yeah, let's play it, Oz.
国的一个官员表示，如果佩洛西访问台湾，美国军方将增加在亚太地区的军事活动，包括战斗机。那你对此有何回应？谢谢。
这一天你恐怕没来吧？我们已经多次表明， 坚决反对佩洛西众议长访台的严正立场。如果美方一意孤行，挑战中方底线，必将遭到坚决反制。由此引起的一切后果，完全由美方承担。
国的一个官员表示，如果佩洛西
Okay.
It says, by the way, I just want to read the tweet. Can I read it so people
Yes.
at home that who are just listening abroad? This is what was said by the Chinese official. We have reportedly made it clear from repeatedly made it clear. Sorry. We have repeatedly made it clear our firm opposition to Speaker Pelosi's visit to Taiwan. If the U.S. insists on challenging China's red line, it will be met with a resolute of countermeasures. The U.S. must ensure full responsibility for any serious consequence arising thereof. Fam, what makes it different this time out? This is what people are saying. They're asking. They're saying, what makes it different this time out from an official now going to Taiwan? They've been going to Taiwan for years. By the way, this next video of Fee, I hope we can play this in my section because I have it in the middle of my section.
Oh, okay.
So it kind of blends in with
this is about China.
Yeah,
right?
it blends into the next section.
Okay.
So we can play it though and bleed and go right into the next section. Just skip it. But anyways, what makes it different this time, fam? Do you have any opinions about that? Because I have a list of 3 things which make it different in Taiwan now.
Well, personally, just right off the bat, I think it has a lot to do with the current geopolitical climate, with Russia and the situation in Ukraine, and how obviously NATO has puffed its chest in trying to supply Ukraine with billions and billions of dollars and wage war with Russia via Ukraine. And China is obviously does business with whoever they need to do business with. And that's something that a lot of people never point out. They do business with the United States. They do business with countries in Africa. They do business with Latin America. But China is backing Russia in this. They have stood against the sanctions. They have repeatedly said that they're against this conflict, that the West and NATO are the ones breaking their promises. And this isn't the first time the United States has tried this with China. They tried it with Hong Kong. And so I think that's now China's just like, we're in a position where we're not going to tolerate this. And there's also Iran and the situation happening with Iran as well. And I think just geopolitically, there's more of a counter movement against the United States, something we don't have in today's folder, but that I was reading about this morning. They didn't even talk about it at that time, is there are anti-NATO and anti-USAID protesters in Congo. There's an uprising against that. So there's a lot of anti-Western sentiment. And I think that is also of a great influence as well.
You know, fam, I think you hit it on the nose. The thing when it comes to the situation with Ukraine and Russia, a lot that's not talked about is the biolabs, right? There are people out there who feel like the biolabs were the last straw, the straw that break the camel's back for Putin. Some people feel it was the fact that Zelensky said he was going to look for nuclear weapons, try to get nuclear weapons. But there has been a lot of talk in Taiwan having the same type of biolabs there. Once again, the West heavily influenced there, a lot of money, a lot of businesses. So there's been talk. So maybe that comes into play. And yeah, you know, the United States tried it with Hong Kong. That's something else that's going on is now the situation for Beijing and Hong Kong is solidified it. They have it under control. They have the laws in place right now. They've thrown out the NGOs. So now step 2 would be Taiwan. Not Hong Kong is taking place, but also too, the fact is that Taiwan does harbor or have a lot of the plants that make semiconductors, silicon conductors that are made that are very, very important for a lot of computers throughout the world and whatnot. And the fact is that we are behind there. So some people feel that they're trying to buy time right now. The U.S. is until they can get caught up and move their conductor plants, their semi-silicon chips over into the States, maybe in Texas, maybe wherever. So those are some reasons why it's different now. But definitely, I think it's a point where China has said, no way, we're not going to play games anymore. We see what's going on in the Ukraine. We now have Hong Kong under control. Now we're going to take Taiwan under control, and we're going to throw the West out.
Yeah, and guys, I don't think they're bluffing. I'll read Danny Haifong's tweet, fam, and then we can go to your section and play the Rokana video in your section.
Sure.
So Danny said China isn't bluffing. If Nancy Pelosi flies to Taiwan, her plane may very well be intercepted and not allowed to land. China cherishes sovereignty and won't be pushed around. Pelosi is making a reckless miscalculation that is nothing short of warmongering. And of course, and Pelosi is, a puppet. She's a representative of, she just does what she is told to do by the State Department. She has been a loyal State Department goon for a while, and that's why she's remained in power. And so they don't care that they're doing this. I think the United States, and this has been a criticism by a lot of powers in Africa in particular, because this morning I was talking about Lavrov, right? And he went and he is doing this tour in Africa, talking to, he went to Congo, he's going to Ethiopia. He's having these conversations. He also met with 20 Arab League nations. And all of these people, they're like, we will work with everybody, but we don't like to be dictated to. We don't like to be told what to do. And so one of the things Lavrov said, and a lot of the sentiments that have been echoed, is that the United States is still acting like they have this power, right? That they can just do whatever it is they want to do. And that's just no longer the case. And they have to come to terms with it. So that is, I think, also a part of it in general. Like, there is a lot of opposition to the West right now. And we can get back to it, fam, after Niko, because this kind of has to do with what's happening, right? This revolt that's happening around the world.
Fam, I totally have my Niko shirt in Florida, and I'm flying into Florida tonight. So I'll be seeing Niko. And when I see Niko, I'll be wearing my Niko shirt, because I make sure I have my Niko shirt in Florida. So when I'm in town, I'm ready to play and ready to rock and roll, fam.
You better get ready then. Niko plays hard.
I'm glad I'm wearing purple at least, you know what I'm saying? But I like to be more like, when Niko comes on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, we get him in heavy doses, and we get him heavy doses, and we love that, He hasn't been on for a while, but he's back with us today. We love him. Our brothers from another mother and our good partner and a guy who's been in this game with us for a long time, Niko House, is here.
What's up, man? Appreciate it. And I'm going to be checking for your Florida shirt. I better see some flowers on there.
Dude, you're going to see me like in a couple days, man. I'm going to be there on Friday.
Really?
Yeah. Well, I fly in tonight, like early morning, or Thursday is for mom, but Friday I reserved the car to go down to Miami. You know what I'm saying? I figured maybe we can do a show or two, and the Mets are playing the Marlins right around the corner.
Yeah, see, that's what everybody knows. This is what I deal with. I'm finding out about all this right now. So, yeah, guess we'll talk about it when we get on the show.
Yeah. We do our meetings and our planning on the middle of the shows. That's what makes us us. What makes the MCSC network what it is.
Yeah, you would think that everybody being like separated from each other across the world would make us more coordinated and communicative, but hey.
I didn't even know, Pasta. I forgot he was going to Miami, because he just reminded me today. So.
Too easy. Gotta make it different. So we got one person in Moscow, one person on the East Coast, one person on the West Coast. Let's do it up, baby.
Oh man, speaking of which,
worldwide.
Speaking of which, just something that everybody should be looking out for. So a lot of people are familiar with the event Better Discourse that I go to, where they have like debate panels set up. They discuss a plethora of issues I participated in before, Fiorella's participated in before, and they are about to actually have their very first Better Discourse conference in Miami in December.
Ooh.
Are they going to have a freaking election panel, for crying out loud?
I'm literally like screaming at them to have one.
Please, I will be in South Florida in December.
Yeah, I know. I told them to make sure they invite you. I didn't know if he was going to be back in town, but I'm like, yeah, y'all need to invite Pasta.
They invited me to the first one, but I was like, nah, it's not my topics. It wasn't my, you know what I'm saying? And that's when you said, well, you should have just jumped on in there and did the best you can. I probably should have.
I mean, a bunch of topics. What do you mean it's not your topic? like 50,000 topics.
Yeah, but it was at the time, it was like the whole climate change thing. And, I'm still learning about, listen, we were just talking about Brazil, right? We're getting ready to put together our trip to Brazil. So we were talking themes in October, early October.
I'm going to be in Brazil in October, but I'm going for a wedding, though.
When are you going?
It's like the 20th or something like that.
We're going to be there.
Earlier.
October 2nd is their election with Lula versus Bolsonaro.
Oh, y'all going during the elections? Okay.
Of course. That's why we go.
Hey, I better be safe, man. Shit.
Well,
Hey, listen, we survived Colombia, Honduras,
Honduras.
Everybody else is like running in the opposite direction, like leaving the Dominican Republic and Colombia
Moscow.
during elections. And being paused for like, all right, let's go.
Well, I got to be honest with you. I'm very, very fortunate that when you go to Latin America, when your business partner happens to speak Spanish, that helps out a lot. You know what I'm saying? That's a big like load off my shoulder.
Just
That
plays
is
the
true.
white guy card, Niko. You know that.
But
He's
it's okay. But fam, when we need to do the stupid things, like when we have to pretend like we're tourists to get into town, I like nail it. Like, you know, I put
you
the
play
white
your role
guy
well.
shirt on. Like, I'm going for some papooses over here. I can't wait. I heard you guys got some great swimming pools. And they're like, just go.
Oh,
I'm like, all right, we're in. Woo.
It's kind of,
So,
so it embarrasses you a lot, Fiorella, is what I'm hearing right now.
Yes.
Yeah, essentially. Fam, so I wanted to have Niko on to talk about this video he did, because he did this little TikTok, right? And you were talking about the Panama protests and Sri Lanka. And I just want to play his video, Oz, if we can play the video before I ask him about the situation, because I want like a more in-depth explanation.
Fam,
Yes.
can you please announce him, though, in your anchor voice, your anchor style?
No.
Thank you.
No. What?
Why not?
No, I don't do tricks.
What do you
No.
mean? Yeah, coming to the
you talking about Fiorella's
right
anchor
now.
voice?
Do your anchor style thing. Coming right now. Now we're going to show a little clip over here from Niko House, who happened to be on the scene. This is a video of Panama and Sri Lanka talking about how these protests are going. Take a look.
You did it, fam. Great job.
Well, because, you know, you didn't want to do it.
Niko's also a Russian.
Now for the juicy stuff. Why haven't you heard about it? Everybody remembers the last 3 weeks of news coverage that we got from Sri Lanka. Not even just 3 weeks, even still today. We've gotten wall-to-wall coverage of Sri Lanka and the protests there and the prime minister's house being burned down. And, you know, everybody's rejoicing because the people are finally standing up. But for some reason, you haven't heard a damn thing about what's happening in Panama. And I'm here to tell you why. See, Sri Lanka was actually working with Russia to bolster its economy right before the whole situation in Sri Lanka went down. The president of Sri Lanka actually said that they unanimously agreed that strengthening bilateral relations in sectors such as tourism, trade, and culture was paramount in reinforcing the friendship our two nations, Russia and Sri Lanka, share. In fact, when it comes to the Russia-Ukraine conflict, Sri Lanka has remained entirely neutral. Now let's look at the other side. President Cortizo, of course, joined the U.S. and NATO in condemning Russia's actions in Ukraine regarding the aggression of NATO. But wait, there's more. Democratic Revolutionary Party, which is the party Cortizo belongs to, has always been in the pockets of the United States since Noriega. Hell, Cortizo himself was educated in the U.S. And we all know a Central or South American educated in the U.S. that suddenly becomes president generally does the bidding of the U.S. And we don't want people to know that he's not doing his job, right? Because then you might start losing faith in the process. The coup d'etat process, that's what they call it now. But the reason you probably haven't heard of it is probably because if you saw what happened in Sri Lanka taking place in Panama, then maybe you, as a person, would push for a coup in Panama like they got many of you to push for a coup in Sri Lanka, except if they don't want a coup in Panama, or even worse. Maybe you start seeing protests like the ones you see in Panama or Sri Lanka in the United States and other parts of the Western world where the economies are just as turbulent.
Yeah.
Okay. So first of all, can you just talk a little bit more about the connection between Sri Lanka and the cooperation with Russia? Because I wasn't all that aware about that, and specifically,
Yeah,
that's never talked about.
So Sri Lanka has obviously been undergoing a lot of economic turmoil, similar to most of the countries in the Southeast Asian region. Well, I guess really most of the countries all over the world, because of the rampant inflation. And the rupee specifically had been suffering, but it's mostly because of how attached the rupee is to the dollar. Like, once again, a lot of other countries and their currencies. So Sri Lanka had actually, the president of Sri Lanka, the former president of Sri Lanka, had met with Putin and was going to get help with oil imports, amongst other things. And the part I also didn't get to discuss that was happening in the video is also what's happening like adjacent to that meeting, which is that Russia and India have been working together to completely get off of the US dollar also. Like, in Russia basically already succeeded in doing so. And then but India had been ramping up. It's actually, there's like another, I think it was an RT story a couple of weeks ago, specifically talking about that. And Sri Lanka and India work very, very closely together. And basically a lot of what Sri Lanka does involves India. And so if India transitions off the dollar, trading, goods with the dollar and things like that, then Sri Lanka would likely be quickly to follow. And in fact, working with Russia would probably ensure that Sri Lanka would be quick to follow. And then, of course, you have to look at the reverberating impact that would have on the region, because if Sri Lanka is making this move because they feel comfortable because of what's going on with India and Russia, how many other countries in that particular region would begin to do the same thing?
Yeah, I think one of the reasons too, as well, when it comes to Panama, that they're keeping this really quiet is that they can't let the world see that we can be losing a grip on, I believe it's called maritime trade, right? We're talking about sea trade, whatnot. The Panama Canal is so important to us. And a lot of people don't realize that the protesters that have been in play for a while, they've been protesting for almost like 15 years. They were a small movement group. Now they're starting to make some noise. And if this gets out, this would really, really show that America is losing its grip on its territories that are so important to us, especially when it comes to trade.
Yeah. And it's important to kind of realize in Panama, like, basically no one has liked any of the elected presidents there, like, ever. Conservative, liberal, whatever you want to call them, obviously in Central South America and the Caribbean, they kind of define it differently. But they've never really liked the president. And the one president who probably, I guess, would be considered a little bit more libertarian, that was actually well liked by the majority of Panamanians, all of a sudden caught a case between the United States and Panama and was investigated because he was investigating the corruption from the previous administration that had been working closely with the United States. And they had a bunch of corruption cases. And so because he was trying to hold them accountable, they actually tried to prosecute him. No, successfully, actually. He went to Miami, got caught in Miami and Coral Gables, and then they brought him back to prosecute him for spying, even though he was a president and was actually trying to catch them in acts of corruption. Like, that's how deep rooted the corruption is in Panama. And like, for those people who don't know, like, the only Panama is basically an extended U.S. territory that, does our bidding. Even the president there is, effectively, I would really just call him a white guy who speaks Spanish. I mean, his name is Cortizo, but for whatever reason, his name is actually Cortizo Cohen. He's like a white Jewish guy, but no one ever talks. He didn't run on that name. No one knows it's his last name. Everybody only knows him as Cortizo, but his name is Cortizo Cohen. And that's actually a common theme throughout a lot of Central and South America. The first governor of Puerto Rico was a Jewish Puerto Rican, but he was really just a Jewish guy who spoke Spanish and not even actually all that well at the time. So like, you see this pattern of the U.S. I don't know if you would call them allies, but at least the U.S. puppet governments. When you see people rising up in those particular governments, even what we're seeing right now in Chile that a lot of people don't know is going on, nothing is discussed. No one is talking about it because it is a direct result of a failed U.S. based system, a failed capitalistic based system, a failure of the US dollar, a failure of just the institution that the US has exported from our country abroad, versus what you're seeing in Sri Lanka. That is also actually kind of a failed US system, but it's not the same, right? That's like, no, somebody's trying to buck our system. because it's an abysmal failure meant to exploit the people of the country. And they want you to pay attention to that because they really are trying to show people this is what happens when you buck the empire. We overthrow your country and, we will have people set fire to your house.
Yeah. And you said something in your video that I thought was interesting. You said maybe if people see what's going on in Panama and start to kind of analyze, oh, there are people in the streets in Panama, Sri Lanka, the Dutch farmers that are getting like no attention. There's protesters against the USAID in Congo. There's a lot of protests going on against
Bolivia,
the West right now.
Not Bolivia, excuse me, Ecuador. They're going through something right now.
Ecuador
Chile's going through it right now. Brazil's about to get crazy, like we were just talking about, like all over Latin America, really, and a lot of Africa,
right,
and even Southeast Asia, all over. There are people basically just fed up with the system. There's not one person I've talked to, foreign or domestic, that's like, yeah, man, I think things are really going well right now for us. I think things are going great. Everybody hates where we're at right now. So it's only a matter of time before people here just get fed up.
Yeah, so you think that the United States, because I see it happening everywhere, but the United States, I still feel people are distracted. I still feel people are trying in denial, right? They're still trying to hold on to this whole like distraction that we have in the United States, where people can't afford that distraction, in continent of Africa or in
wait a second,
America.
guys. J6 hearings are important, guys. Sorry.
I haven't heard anyone actually seriously talk about the J6 hearings outside of hardcore Democrats and hardcore
because they're a friggin' joke.
They are. And it's not working out from what I've heard. I haven't even watched them. I'm like, I'm not even entertaining this shit. I know I'm supposed to entertain it.
Their star witness, Niko, was a person who heard from a guy who heard from another guy that heard from another guy that Trump tried to grab the wheel of the limo that you can't even. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
So same old shit. It's funny because I think that we actually talked about this before I came here. I think it was with me and Pasta, actually. We're like, yeah, they're just going to try to Benghazi this whole situation and not talk about the election fraud, but let's just talk about January 6th. Like, let's not talk about the fact that we can't even audit our elections like without going through the approval of a federal judge who would need to piss off their next boss, their potential next boss, in order to approve those audits. Because, I mean, the president appoints federal judges. So, like, effectively, what you're asking someone to do is to say, hey, man, we don't know how it's going to work out. But can you go ahead and just call your boss out for cheating potentially? Like, no, that's not going to happen. So you don't focus on that part. You focus on January 6th insurrection. It's the same thing. We don't get to focus on, like with Benghazi. You don't focus on the fact that we were overthrowing Libya's government. You focus on Hillary Clinton and Benghazi and the emails and stuff like that, rather than the fact that she was involved in overthrowing a government. So we are seeing these distractions, and it's definitely gaslighting. That's the best way I can think of it. It's just gaslighting and make you focus on something other than the core of what we should be focusing on. But at the same time, a lot of people, the majority of people that I know, just literally do not give a shit about January 6th. I wouldn't say that people are trying to hold on to distractions. I think that people are just tired. I really, in my heart, believe that people are literally exhausted. They don't know what to do. They don't know where to go. Literally, people can't move anywhere because they can't afford to move anywhere. Like the middle class is, I mean, we already barely had a middle class to begin with. It's getting to the point where you're either on the verge of being wealthy or you're on the verge of being poor, and there's almost no in between for most people. A lot of people that weren't living paycheck to paycheck before the pandemic had the same job they had before the pandemic, and now they are living paycheck to paycheck. I think that people are exhausted. I think that the politics and the conversations surrounding most of these issues have become oversaturated and convoluted, and I think that we all know that that's on purpose so that people don't know what to focus on.
Yeah, but I still think that they what they are able to accomplish though with this whole J6 hearing and other forms of distraction is the what I would call the jumping off point or the starting talking point, right? Like everybody's still out there. Now the argument is like, it wasn't an insurrection. It wasn't an insurrection. There was no weapons. It doesn't make a difference. They had bear mace and whatever the case may be, rather talking about why those people showed up there in the first place.
Yes, gaslighting.
Totally. And the Republicans, a lot of reasons why they're going along with this, because you hear all this talk about all these Republicans, they're going to run on a grassroots level, do the same thing we tried to do in 2016, right? Where we fell on our face and realized like, whoa, I mean, in your particular, that lawsuit case where they said, oh, the DNC is a corporation that doesn't even have to go by their bylaws, and they can tell you it's a democratic process, but it doesn't have to be one. And people are like, oh my God. Now the Republicans are trying to do the same thing as far as change the mafia from the inside. But all of this is the reason why January 6th, the hearings are such a great distraction for the ruling class, because they're not even talking about the Republicans who aided all Joe Biden and these Democrats to win the seats in the first place. And people like Mitch McConnell, who, talk like this over here, like this, with no lips, no soul, no problem.
That man don't got no lips. Good God almighty.
He's got no lips. He's got no soul. He's got no problems.
No tan.
Yeah. If the Republicans were serious and they were talking, and there's a group of Republicans that are talking about this, but if the majority were talking about really doing it, they'd be going after Mitch McConnell's seat and Lindsey Graham's seat and Mitt Romney's seat, all these establishment Republicans that allow them to operate in this way. Meanwhile, everybody just points the fingers at the Democrats. The Democrats are the problem. So that's what January 6th has been able to do, has been able to keep the rhetoric, or the the narrative, the national narrative away from the actual problems, Niko, which you know what it is. It's elections. The system itself is the demon, not Donald Trump or not Joe Biden or not the Democrats. It's the system itself. Yet we're still arguing, well, how many people were killed there? Well, who went in the building? Who did this?
Yeah.
It's
we also still, people don't really talk about the fact that like the cop walked in and executed a woman. Like that was super, like, kind of crazy. Everybody, I knew shit was getting wild when a black cop could walk into a building and execute a white woman and no one says anything about it. Like that shit is crazy. Never in my life would I have ever thought that that's where we would be at in 2022, but yet here we are.
Well, that's what we realize. It's all about team sports now, right?
Exactly.
Now it's
exactly. It's as though, right? Everybody else says we live in a post-racial era. I'm like, I mean, I guess is what if there is a post-racial era, it's because of how divided our politics have actually gotten. But in the same way, though, our politics have actually, I guess, begun to unify, because now more and more people are being afflicted by the horrible decision making. And we have talked about this, I think, a lot over the last several years, really since 2018, 2017, about how like it won't be that first midterm or even that first election. It'll be a couple of midterms and about a couple of elections, because now everybody is paying so much attention to what's going on that it can't be ignored anymore. And they're going to see the patterns because it's just right in our face, right? Like 75%, what poll just came out, said 75% of Democrats don't want Joe Biden to run again. That is insane. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that.
You got that wrong, Jack. 92% said they would vote for me if they had to. So what I'm saying is,
if they had to,
and they got a gun to their head, they're gonna vote for me.
And I'm not even confident in that number. I feel like that's just like, man, I don't want my name to get out there on accident and lose my job, because that's where we're at. But I would say the thing is, whenever they do talk about January 6th, and this is something that you guys are really good at, and I like to say that like really everybody at MCSC and everybody really good at, whenever they want to come and talk about January 6th, that gives us an opportunity to tell the real story. And that's where sometimes they kind of get too cocky, because if they wouldn't talk about January 6th, then maybe we do have to wait till midterms to talk about election integrity in America again before anybody gives a damn. But now they do talk about January 6th. So now guess what we get to talk about, and everybody's going to pay attention. I've got to put January 6th in my headline or in my title, and now everybody's paying attention, and I get to tell them the real story. In fact, I've just had a conversation with somebody yesterday who was saying, like, you don't think it was an insurrection? I'm like, I don't really care what that's about. Like, I can tell you what it should have been about. And then that was the conversation. We had 2 seconds of, I don't even care about whatever they want to label it as, and this is what it's really about. And it was like a whole new world for that person, because they had no idea just how fucked our system was. And they were like, well, why aren't we talking about that then? Why aren't more people talking about it? I'm like, exactly. Because that's why you asked me about the insurrection. And she didn't even ask whether or not do I believe Trump cheated? That wasn't even the question. It was specifically about the quote unquote insurrection of quote unquote conservatives who showed up with no guns. Once again, that's the dumbest thing that I've ever heard.
Was it an insurrection?
No, it wasn't. But I mean, I agree. You don't get lost in. It's worthless to get lost in that. It obviously wasn't an insurrection. The FBI has admitted us in less or no words that they were involved. We cannot answer that because they were involved and everybody knows that. And just going off of that, right? So this is my whole situation. When I shared that video of what's his name, the ex-CIA director who worked under the Clinton administration, Woolsey. It's an older video, and it was on Fox with Laura Ingraham, and and he admitted that the United States meddles in foreign elections, right? And so, to me, that really just
and did too. He just admitted it.
Yeah, no, he admitted, and Bolton admitted that they coup everybody, right? That they are involved in coups, and you have to be smart to do it. So, but now they're admitting this, Niko. Why do you think they're allowed, like now that it's being put out in the media and people are starting to notice? People were so flabbergasted by that video I posted. Like it got millions of views. RT even covered it because like it was like such a big thing. Like people
Which
were
video?
Like, wow, they're really the video of Woolsey admitting that they meddle in elections, right? That it's like, oh, the CIA meddles in elections? No shit. So if they meddle in elections all over the world, why do people find it so hard to believe that they would do the same and it wouldn't be easier in their own freaking country?
But this is what's funny about that is like this has actually been a cycle. Like we saw George Bush called it something else. He called it the war in Iraq, the Iraqi conflict. He said we're not going to overthrow Saddam. We're going to fight terrorists. The Republicans have always framed it around that, some general ideology or idea. Democrats have been very clear. We're going to overthrow governments, guys, but it's because of democracy. Like, we're going to go get that bad guy, that one bad guy, and it's always a name, Gaddafi, Saddam, Assad, Putin, whoever. Like, Republicans almost never even attack Putin directly. They always say Russia. They always say, well, they'll call out
China,
Putin, but they don't even call out Xi Jinping that much. They just say China. Because it's supposed to be about attacking an idea when it comes to Republicans, because then you kind of lose the edge if the person that you wanted out ends up getting out and you're like, oh shit, now we don't have a reason to be over there according to the, in the eyes of most people, because that's what we use to justify it. Yeah. So this isn't new. Where the CIA agent literally just the CIA director, former CIA director Woolsey, just admitted what everybody's been talking about out in the open. Hillary was very clear. We saw he died. Like, what do you mean? Yeah,
he died.
And but everybody's always so surprised at this thing that they see over and over again. But it's just that the lens that they're looking at this stuff through now, in my opinion, is completely different. Because when they would hear certain things like we have to overthrow a government in the past, it was under the presupposition that this government is bad. I mean, I know what's going on, but we wouldn't be attacking him otherwise because we had inherently viewed ourselves as the good guys. Now we automatically assume that we're the bad guy in every situation, especially given what's taken place over the last 3 to 4 years. So now when they hear a CIA director in the CIA, like nobody trusts anymore. So now when they hear a CIA director say, we overthrow governments, they're like, hold up. Run that back again, because I'm pretty sure you said that before, but now that I'm thinking about it, a lot of shit that we've been doing, we shouldn't have been doing this whole time. And if aren't we complaining by saying that Russia is trying to influence our elections? So now it's like the gears start turning and they start thinking like all the times that we had complained about other governments interfering in our elections and in our politics, but instead it's been us doing it around the world this entire time, except for in the case of Israel. Nobody loves influencing U.S. elections more than Israel and Saudi Arabia. So.
And if you didn't see last night, fam, on RT, what Woolsey talked about, well, we did it when it came to Greece and Italy. They actually gave the receipts and told you the backstory on RT yesterday on a great segment, how the CIA got really comfortable in that sweet spot, overturning governments, which then eventually led when John Kiriakou was on talking about how we removed Mossadegh in Iran. It is some great stuff. And this is something we have to talk about really quick, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, we have over 100 people on our Rokfin right now. Do us a favor, hit the like button, hit the share button. There's 300 and change over up on the YouTubes, 340 right now, and climbing, guys. We love you. Make sure you go over to Rokfin and follow us over there. That is our free speech platform. We are here with Niko House from the MCSC network. Niko, Fee, something I wanted to mention to you guys right now, because this is something we need to talk about. We go, oh my God, did they just say that out loud? I think that's language that is it still is very comfortable within that conservative space. In other words, when we talk about, the other day when I was at Freedom Fest and Scott Horton was talking about, does NATO need the right to exist? Does it have a right to exist? And obviously Scott Horton, which is the new kind of head of foreign policy of the Mises Caucus for the Libertarian Party, and that is their new management and their new look, is the fact that we want to be non-interventionist for real. There are conservatives that don't want to be involved in other countries. However, the question is, if we remove ourselves and we close down all our bases, will China and Russia fill that gap? Will they fill that?
My question to everybody is, why do y'all think that China and Russia move the way they do at the moment? Like, do people believe that Russia had hundreds of bases or thousands of bases all over the world prior to the Cold War? Because they didn't. Like, even the quote unquote invasion of Afghanistan that everybody talks about when it comes to the Cold War and why we were there and the Mujahideen and all that good stuff, Russia was reacting to us. Everybody just seems to forget that. Russia, the people think the KGB came first. No, the CIA came first. They assassinated Stalin, and then the KGB became a thing because they had to get in clandestine work to figure out what's going on, because we had already began infiltrating their government with intelligentsia, like buying off their celebrities and all that good stuff. Even the Bolshevik Revolution was a product of the United States. Trotsky was a fucking asset. Everything that has been happening over the last. So now I will say this, though, there is a reality that China now will take zero chance on whether or not the United States will cease its imperialistic actions across the world. They're going to take the shit into their own hands, and they have. And Russia is on its own thing. They're going for straight economic dominance all over the world. And Putin's damn near about to be the supreme leader of the planet. You know why? Because everybody owes him a check at this point. Because they need his gas, they need his oil, and they need his military. And they know that they have plenty of experience dealing with us. And to be frank, Putin's a smart ass motherfucker. That is a smart goddamn dude. I might not even be that mad if Putin was an overlord. Who knows? Maybe it works out. But they now they've been put in a position where they can no longer take chances, because every single time they've been given a promise by one of these fake ass presidents who pretends to be a leader when they're really being controlled by the puppet masters. Every time they promise him, we're going to stay out, we're going to leave it alone, we're not going to expand NATO, we're going to have Ukraine remain neutral. Every time they make a promise, it's a lie. Yeah. Every single time they do the opposite.
So your theory
if we put our bases out prior to all of this in the last 10 years, I don't think we would have had to worry about much. All the countries would have become more and more self-determined. They would have established their own militaries. They would have trained themselves. They would have allied with the people in their regions, and it would have worked out however those countries would have liked it to work out. I think that the balance of power would have been better, which actually helps to maintain peace for the most part. But now I do believe there's going to be a struggle for peace, and there is going to be a point where we're going to not be able to afford to keep these bases. And where we can afford it, it's not going to matter because they're going to be overran. Because it's like they're working with China and Russia and India and Iran and potentially Brazil, depending on how this election works out. So
I just want to say, so your theory is the fact that they haven't been building bases and expanding. Now, why would they do it if the United States closed their bases and came home? Is that what pretty much the theory?
I can't
question
say.
A lot of conservatives ask, Niko. They go, what's going to happen? We close these bases. China and Russia's going right in.
Well, we've already closed so we did close a bunch of bases, but like, it's like we closed them because we couldn't afford them. Like literally, that's like it happened recently over the last 5 years. But it's China and Russia aren't going to build bases in these other countries because they're not going to need to. What they are going to do is, hey, looks like the United States is not in your business anymore, or they had to close their base. So in order for you to be in order for you to be a member of the UN, and in order for you to have more established power within the UN, you have to be a sovereign nation. And by definition, your military has to be able to defend itself from other people encroaching on their borders. And so Russia and China, for the most part, will likely aid in making sure that since the US is finally out and NATO is finally out, that they'll never be able to go back in there again without getting their asses handed to them. I think that's what's going to happen. Because Russia and China have been doing business like that. They don't like Russia doesn't. I mean, they have like mini bases in Syria, but like they seemed they had only been there temporarily because of what was going on in Syria, and also they were invited. That's the difference. We weren't invited to Korea. Yeah. We went to Korea because North Korea was the fastest growing economy in the world. Couldn't let the fastest growing economy of a communist country that is allied with Russia exist. So we go and beat the shit out of them. We tried that with Vietnam, didn't work out, which is why there isn't a North and South Vietnam anymore. But that's what we do. We go in and force bases onto countries like Trinidad, Colombia, other places. When you have the situation like with Russia and Syria invited Russia in. That's different. And then whenever Russia is done, they'll leave. But there's no evidence of China and Russia just establishing bases all over the world.
The United States operates on projection, right? Yes. Because they think that, if they take away their bases, Russia and China are going to do this. I don't even think it's projection. I think some people use that projection, but the people in power know that that's not the case. There would be basically a relationship built upon maybe convenience, whether it's economic or not. That's one of the reasons why so many Latin American countries are choosing to work with China over the United States, because they feel like it's a more equitable relationship. That's one of the reasons why African countries and Russia are closing their relationship, are making the relationship stronger right now, because they don't see Russia as trying to colonize them. In fact, Russia, when it was the USSR, was part of the partners in African countries that helped decolonize much of the continent. And so there is that.
I'm about to say that's a good little trivia question for everybody who's watching. You can say that U.S., a lot of Western European countries have colonized a lot of African nations at some point. How many African nations has Russia colonized? I'm just asking.
Hold on.
Because people
none
seem
that
like it's just weird.
No, there's one.
They think that because there used to be a Russian Empire, and there was a Russian Empire, just like there was an Ottoman Empire, just like there was there's been empires, but a Russian Empire at one point does not. You shouldn't be basing that. And also, the Russian Empire was had been a thing for forever, right? So it's not like it just came out of nowhere. It was family based, it was regionality based, and even the empire, what we think of an empire today, wasn't what we think of an empire back then. It was just massive. I can't think of any African nation that has ever been colonized, any Central or South American nation or Caribbean nation that had been colonized during that 100-year era, where literally every single Western power was trying to colonize the entire world.
Yeah.
Russia stayed the fuck out of it. And in fact, like Fee pointed out, even tried to help decolonize. Stalin himself was working with leaders like Maurice Bishop in Grenada, or Fidel Castro, or oh my goodness. I am black. I should know this name. Mandela. Jesus Christ. Black people, don't be mad at me. Mandela, Gaddafi, all of these leaders that oftentimes were slandered, including Mandela. Mandela, the U.S. hated Mandela until they didn't. Don't get it twisted. Stalin was working with them. He was working to desegregate, literally desegregate countries. But they want to tell you that Russia is going to do everything the U.S. has already been guilty of doing. It's bizarre that people don't even just look. It takes fucking 30 seconds to figure this shit out on the internet. I bullshit you not.
Yeah. But that's the way people have been programmed and trained, and that's what they say. The reason why they're not going in there, guys, is because we're there. And since we're there, then the Russians aren't there. But as soon as we leave, Russia and China, fam, they're there.
Yeah. Yeah, that's how it always goes. And it's no, it's not as soon as we leave. A lot of times it's because we're there. Because either we're there, so it's either we're there, or the situation in Bolivia, we have already overthrown the Chilean government. We already are in control of Argentina. And so Bolivia saw the writing on the wall and started making moves to work with China to prevent the U.S. from coming in there and monopolizing it for them. Venezuela, same thing. They already control the Colombian government. Brazil had, Bolsonaro is working with the U.S. and Brazil's government's kind of always been to some degree under the control of the U.S., which is why, like, Brazil's economy is not just naturally like unstable. Yeah. It is literally forcibly unstable because of the United States, because we don't want to compete with them. Colombia, same thing. Argentina, same thing. So these countries will see you, because that's what happened to Gaddafi. We put a leader in Chad. We put a bunch of terrorists in Chad, had them constantly violate Libya's borders. Every time Libya would respond, we would say he was attacking his own people. Literally, that's what would happen. So they have to then say, I got to work with somebody. I got to do something. And right now, like, bro, it's the BRICS. I mean, Gucci Mane would be very, very proud of how good BRICS are doing in their international stage, to be real, because BRICS are taking over. And it's kind of crazy.
They also talked about making another G8, right? So talking about opening up the doors. So you take everybody from BRICS. You got China, Russia, India, of course, which are your three major, global GDP powers that can produce stuff and have the resources and everything. You have Brazil there now, and you had South Africa. They're talking about the new G8, adding Iran to the mix, adding Mexico to the mix, and Indonesia. Those other three countries to form their own G8 moving forward is what has been rumored that they're trying to bring together as well. So,
and like, people should really recognize, like, they have the ability to render like the NATO powers economy like obsolete. Like, they have the ability already. Because where do you think Syria is going to go?
Right.
To them. Where do you think Iran is going to go? Where do you think Saudi Arabia is going to go when they realize the only competition in the oil industry left is, like, at least as far as the U.S. is concerned, it's literally Russia, Iran, Saudi Arabia. So if we did manage to overthrow the Iranian government, then it's just leave Saudi Arabia. So
well, Venezuela, right?
They already showed us where they're going.
Venezuela's got a little bit of that competition.
Venezuela is going to go. So you're talking about, and these are all Brazil, Venezuela, Colombia, even to a large degree. These are all countries, they're working with the U.S. because they have to. Things have gotten so tumultuous that they have to. However, you don't think, given the opportunity, that they would love to have some type of stability and be considered the leader responsible for bringing that stability to countries that have had little to none over the last 100 years? All of these countries.
Venezuela and Colombia are working together already. I mean, they've opened up at least the conversation. So the United States is losing Colombia already, and if this election goes a certain way, they're losing Brazil as well.
And if Lula wins Brazil, that's it. That's over for them.
The funny thing is, though, is Bolsonaro has been making a deal with Russia. He's in BRICS right now. He's told the WHO to go scratch. So it's very interesting.
I think that's a political move, man. I think he's trying to save his office.
Yeah, I still think the United States wants Bolsonaro in power over Lula. I still feel that way too as well. So,
it's going to be like the fact that the Colombian election went the way that it did was like kind of surprising, considering, like, because I mean, think about it. So in the context of the conversation with Panama and Sri Lanka, right? With Colombia going the way it went, Panama has another U.S. puppet in charge. What happens when they lose that puppet? Which means effectively you lose control of the Panama Canal, which means effectively you are setting up for a situation where Russia and China could end up controlling the Panama Canal instead of the United States. And China already does a lot of business.
Nicaragua, right? So listen, that's why you don't hear much about Panama going on the news. They don't want people to know this shit. Like the Panama Canal, if the United States loses control of that, forget about it.
It's over. Like, it's South China Sea. Like, we can flex our little muscles at the Navy, but Navy ain't doing nothing. Them boys, trust me, I know a lot of people in the Navy. They're like, bro, I would jump off the boat and swim and pull out Google Translate on my iPhone and tell Russia and China, I don't want no smoke, bro. I just here to pay my bills and pay for school. Like, but nobody believes in American imperialism anymore. Nobody. Yeah. Nobody believes in it. Even like special forces people will tell you that, but like they'll tell you like they're all super pro-America, gung-ho, da-da-da-da. But even them, a lot of them are retiring early. Like they're having all-time recruiting numbers. The military's having all-time low recruiting.
Yeah.
Even though we're in
that
our
is a
most
fact.
economically tumultuous time at least in modern history, more people are homeless. Wages, inflation, everything is fucked up right now. And in 2008, that was enough to have lines around the block at the recruiting office. Now people are like, man, fuck it. I don't even really need to eat today. What's eating? What is eating? I don't even need to eat. I'm damn sure not about to go deploy. That's for sure. I'm not about to work for this crazy people. I'm not about to go work for Joe Biden. Like, that's where we're at. So that kind of lets you know not only are we losing ground on the international stage, but even here in the U.S., people see what's going on. I think there's like almost like a level of panic and anxiety because we don't know what comes next. Unfortunately, the reality of the situation is, ladies and gentlemen, I know I live here, but we got some generational karma coming our way. We do as a country, and that's just something we have to be prepared for. The only
and you
thing
got
can
that
do
asshole in Florida who's gearing up to run, and everybody thinks like he's the next.
I thought you were calling me an asshole. I was like, what? What
I'm
did I
talking
do?
about Ron DeSantis.
Yeah.
No, not you, baby. Never. Love.
Niko, why don't you tell everyone what you're up to, where they can find you? I've seen you posting some videos, some TikToks.
Mm-hmm. So I'm on TikTok still at Real Niko House. On Instagram, I post a lot of stuff there. I actually haven't been doing my live streams because I'm in the process of actually launching a new podcast called the For the People podcast. It's going to be a little bit more conversational. We're going to have more guests. What are we talking about? Like politics still, but like the interconnectivity of all of these issues. I think a lot of people at this point, for the most part, agree that shit is fucked, right? Like that's where we're at. And so now it's time to start having the conversations of like what to do next. How do we move? Like how some people have moved in certain situations versus like, how do we survive this? What do we do? Like, there's a lot of conversation we need to have. Like I said, the U.S. is collapsing. I don't know if y'all have been experiencing this, but the U.S. is collapsing. It is. And we kind of have to work together and become a community and have really, really tough conversations. We keep it lighthearted too, but we're going to have some really tough conversations going forward. But I want to do it, but I want people to understand that the collapsing isn't just limited to your perception of politics. Like everything, the society looks wild right now, and we just kind of have to, I want to talk about it with people and figure out why we keep getting distracted versus like just focusing in and doing what we see a lot of these other countries doing, which is fucking revolting. That's what needs to happen.
Well,
flip over a car, flip over a fucking car, bro. Just you see a fucking cop car, flip it over. I don't know. Just start somewhere.
So really quickly, Oz, go to slide 44 because I have my last question for you really quick as we get you out of here.
Okay.
There's been a lot of talk, mostly on the morning show, that there's more than one Joe Biden. We, even classified Joe Biden 1, Joe Biden 2, Joe Biden 3. Like this Joe Biden 1 is the original Joe Biden. You can see, he does the grandpa walk and has those fat shoes, whatnot. Joe Biden 2 is a little bit more stern. You know what I'm saying? Like that. He's got a bigger forehead. If you look at the kind of dimensions, whatnot, I think there's another Joe Biden, and I got to get your opinion on it because we've seen a lot of videos of Joe Biden late. He can't stop blinking. He constantly blinks. Look at this Joe Biden over here who had to address the crowd. I think there's a Joe Biden number 4, or they just really just shot him up with a lot of adrenaline.
His Botox is acting up. What you mean?
Look at it. Well, this Joe Biden doesn't exist.
Thank you.
To save lives. Then on January 6th, we relied on law enforcement to save our democracy. We saw what happened. The Capitol Police, the D.C. Metropolitan Police, other law enforcement agencies were attacked and assaulted before our very eyes, speared, sprayed, stomped on, brutalized.
Actually, Costa, you're kind of right. I don't know who the hell that guy is, but that is like a stunt double.
States watched it all happen. As he sat in the comfort
He's
of the
not squinting either.
At one blink.
While he was doing that, brave law enforcement officers were subject to the medieval hell.
Damn, bro. They went and had to go find a stunt double for Joe Biden. Ain't this about a bitch?
Blood surrounded by carnage.
Okay, you guys.
Also, hold up, real quick. Double the fuck back. Didn't Biden have COVID like 4 days ago?
Yeah. And
then they said the one thing that was bothering him still was his sore throat.
Yeah. He had a little sore throat, a little dizziness. Nothing really.
Let's be honest, right? Everybody in politics they are actors, and actors do tend to have stunt doubles. So I guess it's not really all that fucking crazy.
Dude didn't blink once, Niko.
That's weird. He's not squinting.
That dude. And he was like shot up with adrenochrome.
Like he does, you know, like whenever everybody's trying to read a teleprompter, literally it looks like he's trying to read it. Like he's not doing it successfully. He's like,
repeat the line.
Yeah, you know, like and he's not as demonstrative or deliberate in his body language when he's reading, at least not lately. Like because he's so concentrated on trying to read. Like, and it's definitely, and I don't know, him not squinting at all is also bizarre because it's like one of the most, I feel like standout qualities of like when you see Joe Biden reading a speech, every time you imitate Joe Biden, it's like this. You got to do this because like that's what he does. This guy is not doing this.
Nope.
I agree with Pasta. They
Thank you.
had to hire
Going down on a record.
He didn't stutter at all. What happened to the speech impediment?
None. See that, fam? That's me shooting the New York Knicks style basket. Boom.
Oh, don't do that, please. I want the basket to go in. I want the ball to go in the basket.
Let's go, Mets.
Don't say New York Knicks because New York Knicks definitely reminds me of the U.S. government. Like it's going to be an utter and complete abysmal failure every year, and people are going to keep having hope, and they're going to keep getting let down.
All right, that's it for Niko House. He's getting out of here now. That's Niko House.
Appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Niko.
Ladies and gentlemen, Niko
House. You too,
guys.
Pasta, fucking call me at some point within the next 2 days.
I'll see you Friday. Saturday, we're doing a little vegan potluck with some friends, and you're invited.
Okay.
We got some peeps there already waiting to see you.
All right.
Just make sure to bring like some beef to the party.
I'm gonna bring some beef. All right. All right, people. Talk to you soon.
Bye, Niko.
Love you, Niko.
Love you too, guys.
In a couple days.
Bye.
Sam,
What?
don't encourage
I
people
had to say it.
to my parties.
Mid frolic. Okay, fam, let's go through the section because some of us have to work in a few hours.
All right, in a few hours, let's get you out of here. So the title is that there is no difference between Democrats and Republicans, especially when it comes to war. When you can't tell the difference between Democrats and Republicans on war, fam, there's a problem. Oz.
Yes.
We ready? Is he awake? There he goes. There we go.
So Mitch McConnell.
Let's get to slide 26. Let's go.
Moscow Mitch.
Moscow Mitch, fam. Now,
in the flesh.
Who could sit there and say with a straight face, fam, that the number one pressing issue for Americans before they leave on break is to make sure that Sweden and Finland are admitted to NATO? Warmonger Mitch, and also his comments too as well when it comes to Nancy Pelosi going to Taiwan. No, it's not that one. It's this one. Yeah. Not that one. Go up a slide. That one.
It's 27.
Go ahead.
27.
Slide 27.
I think it's rendering.
Mm.
There we go.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Well, here we are, 2 weeks out from the August recess. In terms of the priorities for the country, I think clearly the most important thing to do before we leave is admitting Sweden and Finland to NATO. That's time sensitive and must actually happen. While we're talking about things overseas, I noticed with interest the flap over the Speaker's travel plans. I think much more important than traveling to Taiwan is making sure we have worked with them to make sure their defenses are adequate to the threat that may come from mainland China. So I think we ought to refocus on what kind of military equipment they have. Is it the right kind? And if not, working with them to make sure they actually have weapons that will deter the Chinese in case there is such an attack.
Weapons, fam. We got to make sure it's not as important for Nancy Pelosi to go to Taiwan, even though I think she should go to Taiwan, because if she doesn't, it's a loss. But more important, fam, weapons. Who cares if we have a one China policy over there? Weapons. Let's give them weapons. Let's give them the best weapons. Hey, shit, it's Taiwan. Let's give them submarines. Let's arm them to the T. And by the way, the most important thing is not the fact that gas is so high priced. It's not the fact that all the housing restrictions are ending and people are being evicted. It's not the fact that people can't put food on their table. It's not the fact that they can't pay their kids tuition to go to school. It's not the fact that our roads and everything is crumbling. It's not the fact that jobs, people need 2 jobs now, not just 1 job, but 2 jobs with their wife or their husband to make a living. That's not the problem, fam. The most important thing is that we get Sweden and Finland into NATO before we leave, because we know Americans know that that is the most pressing fucking problem we have, fam. There you go.
Why do we have literal, like, ghoul, zombie-looking people in running our shit?
Yeah.
I mean, have you seen, like, Biden? Yeah, but all of them, Biden, Pelosi, Mitch McConnell, why do they look like they're just mummies, like running our shit? Like, and they act like it too. They act like they're just so entirely out of touch with reality. Like, it's kind of disturbing watching them, really. It was hard to get through that for me. His voice, everything, just basically declaring it's not enough to have this war with Russia. Now we want to make sure we go after China, right? Like, are they that stupid to think that there's not going to be a response anymore, right? Like, I just don't. And yeah, I mean, Niko just said it, right? America's in collapse. I don't know if you noticed, but the United States is falling apart, and their priority is to get Finland and Sweden into NATO, which will make them more of targets from Russia, because Russia is going to do everything to protect their border. That's period. End of story. They're going to protect their border, whether you like it or not.
Well, the next one is a Rokana, because Rokana gets it there. By the way, Steve wanted me to do my Mitch McConnell interview. I got no lips. I got no soul. I got no problem. We got to make sure that, we get people abducted. And this is like, all right, now this is, how could anybody think that the Republican Party, the conservative party out there, who's trying to play the anti-war stance, like, look at Matt Gaetz, look at Marjorie Taylor Greene. They were against giving money for Ukraine, but you have all these other fucking nutbags, especially in leadership like McConnell and Graham, that are running shit. And you guys are sitting there pointing the fingers at Democrats when you got your own problem, ladies and gentlemen, conservatives. The call is coming from inside the house, inside the fucking house. Now,
no pun intended.
Now, you got this fucking idiot, right? This is supposed to be, I'm sorry for cursing, this one over here who's supposed to be, the progressive. Man, remember when they floated this guy's name to be president?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me if this doesn't sound like a conservative from the George W. Bush days, somebody in one of his cabinets. Listen to this guy.
On a different issue, Congress, President Biden has said the U.S. military believes a Taiwan visit by the House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is, quote, not a good idea right now. You sit on the Armed Services Committee. Should she call off this possible trip to Taiwan?
No, she should not. I respect Speaker Pelosi. I mean, we're not going to let the Chinese Communist Party dictate where the Speaker of the House should go. Taiwan is an economic partner with us. That doesn't mean that her going there is somehow not recognizing the one China policy. She should absolutely go. And we need to speak out on human rights issues in China. And we need to speak out about the trade deficit in China. So I fully support her going.
But is it worth potentially, God forbid, provoking some sort of military response from the Chinese?
They should realize that would be the worst thing they could do. I mean, they've seen this president, our country's resolve in Ukraine with rallying NATO. They've seen the sanctions on Russia. I mean, they would cripple their entire economy. They are so dependent on the United States in terms of the trade that we have. So we shouldn't allow them to bluff and dictate to America, the greatest nation in the world, where our Speaker of the House should travel. I mean, who are they to say that Speaker Pelosi shouldn't go to Taiwan?
Congressman Rokfin, thanks as usual for joining us.
Who are they, fam? You want to take back at this shit? Do you want to? I mean,
when this moron who's interviewing him looks more sane than Rokfin, I mean, isn't that provoking a potential nuclear war? Yes, you fucking dumbass. This is the guy that's supposed to be progressive. This is the guy that was like on the Bernie Sanders. Need I remind you, on the Bernie Sanders campaign, one of his surrogates. Okay, this is the guy that all these progressives fawn over for being like, oh my God, he has the potential to be president. His foreign policy and that of every single progressive in the House and the Senate is the same foreign policy of neocons. Literally no difference. He used the word communist China. Again, touching base back onto this anti-China Cold War rhetoric of communism, the specter of communism. Ooh, that's the biggest threat. No, it's not. Look at your fucking capitalist country and how it's falling apart. China isn't trying to come into the United States and say, hey, you guys need to become full-on commies, which, by the way, China isn't even fully like that. They literally have a lot of capitalism in their economy. 100% they do. And it's just hilarious. You don't even have to defend the ideology of China. In fact, you shouldn't even bring it up. Whatever China is or isn't, it's the fact that he's talking about protecting sovereignty. He's talking about having democracy. What about these countries we literally don't pay attention to, like Yemen, like the Palestinian people, like every other country that doesn't serve our monetary resource extraction when we talk about aiding or freeing people? He is regurgitating the same type of foreign policy as a neocon. So really, why would I vote? Why would I care if they label themselves progressives at this point when their foreign policy is the same? And not a single House representative, AOC, the squad, any of those people have said shit about our stoking the flames of a nuclear war, which would literally destroy the entire fucking planet. And no, China is not bluffing. They're not just pumping their chest. They're being fucking serious right now.
Yeah. And you know, fam, you mentioned it, the Chinese Communist Party. He used the buzzword to make sure. I mean, that
sounds like a neocon.
He sounds like a neocon, and he also referred to human rights violations because he's kind of insinuating about what's going on in the American or the West tale of the Uyghurs, which are really, it's the WMD of our times right now. A friend of mine described him as that. There is nothing fucking there with that. People have went in there. They've seen stuff. Please, this still made up fucking story that they're trying to go along with. And, you know, he was also, once again, and they should know better, fam, to do this. We're not going to back down. You know, talking about our military might, and also too as well, we'll sack their economy. They'll have nobody. That's his little out is the trade thing. He wants to draw a line that we have to keep China honest with our trade deals. So that's his little wannabe situation, which he's going to refer to. We buy so many of their products. Guess what, fam? They got a whole bunch of new customers in Africa and the Middle East. They don't need us. They make our shit.
It's the same thing with Russia. Oh, we're gonna sanction Russia and we're gonna screw their economy. Really? The ruble is doing great. Russians are fine. They're surviving. What about the United States? Can we compare for a second? Who's the population that is traveling and is able to spend money and comes into the United States with a lot of money and is able to put their kids in school in the United States and is able to put their kids in school in Europe and comes to the United States and like to buy property? Oh, that's right. It's the Chinese. Oh, it's the middle class of the Chinese. They lifted all these people out of poverty. Oh, shit. Oh, okay. What about the United States?
This, by the way, fam?
The middle class of the United States, fam. What is the middle class of the United States doing? Oh, yeah, that's right. They're no longer middle class. They're literally poor now.
Where's Bernie on this? Where's Bernie? We shouldn't be provoking the Chinese with the trip. I think that Nancy Pelosi shouldn't go, but instead they're all silent, or they agree, or they jump on the fucking bandwagon. And I think that, you know, Mr. Rokfin over there mentioned Ukraine. Look what we're doing in Ukraine. Like, he's proud of it. Like, he's proud of what the United States doing is funding a proxy war. When he was
look what you're doing to Ukraine. No, seriously, look what you're doing to Ukraine. Ukraine will never be the same ever again after this.
Well, maybe he's upset, fam, that he didn't get to go to Ukraine with Nancy Pelosi, with Nance, and he wants to go. So maybe we got Nancy Pelosi.
We should send him.
We put Rokfin on the plane, and here's somebody else who wants to jump on the plane. Mike Pompeo. Democrats, bad. Social wars, bad. Abortion, bad. Gay marriage, bad. Trans issues, bad. But China? No. That's worse. China, real bad. Nancy, I'll go with you. I'm banned in China, but not freedom-loving Taiwan. See you there, fam.
Oh, wow. Unity, guys. It's unity. That's so amazing. Don't you feel so much better about America now when we can stand together and unite within our love for imperialism? It's just so great when you see the Democrats and Republicans shake hands for war. It's so nice.
Yeah. Well, Michael Tracy went to the summit. Now, Mike Tracy does do some good work on here and there. He does do some crappy work. You know, the whole Tara Reid shit was crap. I don't know why he decided to do that. And when he talks about elections, he talks about like absolutes and talks about things that numbers that don't really make a difference because the system itself can't give you accurate numbers. So when you're going to, whatever the case may be, but he does do some good work. And over here, he went to this America First policy. Would it surprise you to learn that Nancy Pelosi got a round of applause at a meeting of a Trump-backed America First Policy Institute? Because that's exactly what happened when Newt Gingrich, man, one of your favorites, declared support for her upcoming trip to Taiwan. I commend Nancy, said Newt. So you can see when it comes across the board, these people are the most evil people on the face of the earth. These are the people that are killing America. But when it comes to amping up war in China, fam, that's thumbs up. Newt.
I mean, I don't know why people on both ends of the political aisle refuse to see this, right? Both the left, who refuses to call out Rokfin, who even refuses to entertain his bullshit. He's just going to come and bullshit his way out of everything. And then you have, of course, the right that pretends that they're so anti-war in this. By the way, Marjorie Taylor Greene has taken money from the defense industry and continues to do so. A lot of these pro free speech warriors on the right are only free speech until it's something they disagree with, like China, or something they consider communist or far left. So there's a lot of this hypocrisy happening. The solution isn't going to come from these morons. You can't even tell them apart. If we remove their names, you wouldn't know who said what. That whole what Rokfin said could have been Mike Pompeo saying it. It could have been, and what Mike Pompeo said could have been Rokfin saying it. I mean, it's free for all at this point.
So Tracy also at the American First Summit today, and listen, maybe we will hear something from Marjorie Taylor Greene and Matt Gaetz saying that, you know, we shouldn't be poking the bear with China. I doubt, because when it comes to China, it looks like they're ready to go at it. But Michael Tracy also at the America First Summit today in D.C., this is a couple days ago, said Senator Joni Ernst, the Republican from Indiana, now this is an America First thing, right? Passionately demanded that we absolutely annihilate the Russian forces and we get them to crawl back into Russia so bloody and bruised that they can't come back. This was greeted by applause. This is what I'm talking about. They have to now overcompensate, since the Democrats, or the establishment Democrats, did the Russiagate story so hard and did it so much, and they're still doing some of it today, even though it's been completely disproven, that they have to overcompensate now and make sure that they have anti-Russia people going now to the America First to go, see, Donald Trump is no puppet of Putin. No way. You know what I'm saying? Look who they have here. So we couldn't see what she said there because the speech isn't online anywhere. I couldn't find it. Maybe it's out there, but I couldn't find it. So, fam, I grabbed a speech of hers a couple months ago. Here she is after a bipartisan meeting over the weekend to discuss what we should do moving forward with Vladimir Thanos Putin.
You know that over the weekend we had a bipartisan delegation. Actually, it's more tripartisan because we did have an independent with us as well. But
great.
What we did, we demonstrated the U.S.'s unwavering support for the freedom-loving people of Ukraine, and we affirmed strength of NATO. So we departed this last week with the conviction that America, Ukraine, and the free world we have the will and we have the means to unite and stand up to Vladimir Putin. So while we were in Poland, we heard directly from Ukrainian civil society leaders, this group of passionate, strong women delivered a clear message to the United States. And that message was, we need more lethal aid, and we need it as soon as possible. They are very rightly concerned about the pace and the flow of the lethal aid into Ukraine. We also met with non-governmental organizations, and we met with Ukrainian refugees, including one woman who left her husband behind to fight against the Russians. She ultimately wants peace and to be able to return home to her community and her home. The message from all of the Ukrainians we engaged with was that Ukraine will fight to the very last man. They can and they will win this war. Beyond Ukraine's borders, the trip clarified NATO's posture against Putin's unjust and bloody war of aggression. We are united, and it was abundantly clear that if Putin chooses to wage war against a NATO ally, he will rue the day. There will be swift payback.
Woo, there it goes. Woo, fam, they will rue the day. These people watch too much fucking G.I. Joe before they got their job, fam. That is an American first now, Donald Trump supporting Republican right now in office. That you heard it all too, fam. This is a proxy war. I would love to hear your comments on this, fam, because this is what we're stuck with right now. They're all in it. They're all in it.
They're delusional. They're delusional, and I think people like her are delusional, but I think the people at the top they know what they're doing. And she said, right? She spoke for all Ukrainians. Ukrainians are going to fight down to the last Ukrainian, essentially. But who's really putting them out there? It's of course the United States and NATO that they're not sending their people like at the amounts that they should. They're throwing Ukrainians in there, and these Ukrainians will not win this war. I mean, everything that you see tactically, militarily, all of the information that is coming, Russia is expanding westward. We've talked about this with numerous people. This is not going to end well for Ukraine. Ukraine will never be the same. Ukraine will be divided at the best case scenario. The left side of Ukraine will be with what is known as Ukraine now, and then the right side will be part of Russia. That's what's going to happen. So I mean, she's under this delusion that they're going to win, and the United States needs to continue giving money. I mean, really, who are these people talking to? Because most Americans, I think, as we've been discussing, are like, what the fuck? Yeah. Like, what about us? What's going on here? And it's just that I don't even know what to say. Well, so delusional.
Yeah, I mean, and this is our Congress. This is the Republicans there too as well. They're all in it as well. And this is why I do not trust the conservative party as well. We need to look outside the two-party duopoly, and that's the end of the day. The last one, Mike Tracy also got at the American First Summit in the D.C. Representative Mike Waltz, fam. You think you got your little warmonger, and wait until you hear this guy. He says he just returned from Ukraine, is now calling for the deployment of U.S. military advisors directly into the war to operate U.S. weapon systems alongside Ukrainian forces. Let's win this damn war, he proclaimed.
They have a hard-on for war. It's like they get turned on by war. Like, it's really disturbing.
Yeah.
Ooh, let's win this damn war. Yeah, as if war is just a fucking G.I. Joe game.
Well, let's listen to this guy because he thinks he's playing fucking G.I. Joe. And a lot of this shit was met with applause at these events. Take a listen to this one, fam. Mike Waltz.
The program.
Good to be with you, Tony.
All right, what is your latest assessment on the situation in Ukraine based on what we're hearing today?
Well, we're seeing a bit of what we call in the military an operational pause as the Russians lick their wounds, they refit their forces, reorganize them, put them under a new commander who was pretty well known as the Butcher of Syria, and strategically focus on
US
eastern Ukraine, which,
rebels.
by the way, is the most energy rich, is the most industrialized, and the portion that Putin has always wanted. On top of that, he wants to take as much of the Black Sea coastal area. We're seeing that with Mariupol. We may or may not see a drive on Odessa. I think this is a golden opportunity, Tony. We should be giving Zelensky the more advanced weaponry, the more offensive weaponry that he has long been asking for since last year, since before the invasion. He could be hitting those Russian formations right now while they're most vulnerable, while they're trying to reorganize, if we would only give them everything they're asking for. That's long-range artillery. That's more of the Turkish drones they've used so effectively. It's additional radars, and it's the intelligence and targeting packages that only the United States can provide to hand those to the Ukrainians so that they can target Russian forces. We've got to help Zelensky win. Yet Jake Sullivan, the president's national security advisor, just said on the Sunday talk shows that we're trying to help him get to the negotiating table. We shouldn't be playing for a tie in Ukraine, Tony. We should be helping the good guys win and giving them everything they need to do so.
So what is the holdup on this critical weaponry that they're...
We'll get to the next question. We have to stop there. Fam, the Butcher of Syria is coming in. The Russian forces, while Vladimir Putin is licking his wounds, fam, that's what we should do. We should, kind of what Lindsey Graham said, we should pour it on. We should be giving him long-range missiles. We should be giving him more sophisticated ammunition. These guys do not care. This is a congressperson in Florida. This is the party that you think should be taken over? This party right here, the conservative party, they're now the anti-war party? No. Both parties are full of fucking neocons to the brim. To the brim. And it's not going to be any different. It will just be a different enemy. That's it, fam.
Yeah, I mean, the Republicans are being neocons and the Democrats are being neocons. So really, what's the point? And, and Costa's more optimistic, but I'm not. I don't think we're going to get out of this by voting for even a third party because we don't have fair elections. So
I was going to say the third party's got no oversight. Somebody said it in the chat anyways. The Libertarian Party has zero oversight. It's between the Democrats and the Republicans. The only thing that we can hope for is that it is now pointed out every single bit of the way. The things that we know when we go overseas and we see these elections and go, hey, man, they do this over here. Why can't we do it over there? I mean, they do it over there. Why can't we do it over here? Just point out every single, but that's the problem with the team sports mentality, the TDS, the CDS. It has made people even ignore what is completely and 100% an obvious corruption right in front of their very own face because they are so about the team sports mentality, fam. They can't think for themselves. They have to think what their party thinks. I was told by Kamala Harris, which, by the way, I'm so surprised. Like, as we're doing this right now, it's kind of funny because I was going to put the Vogue stuff in the folder in the slide deck. And I said, nah, that would be too much. Fam doesn't want to cover that and stuff like that. That happened with me this morning in the morning show where I didn't put it in there. But I'm surprised, fam, that you didn't put the Kamala Harris around the table with the mask on, which everybody got to go around and announce their pronouns and say what they were wearing.
Yeah. I tweeted about it and some moron came on and was like, you're being insensitive. I'm like, no, I'm pointing out that this is just virtue signaling and she's not doing anything for any of these people, whether they use pronouns or not, whether they're disabled or not, they're just virtue signaling, but they're not ever going to do anything for these people. And that's what these morons don't see. Like they think like, oh, they're focused on me and saying that I'm insensitive. for mocking that. I'm mocking the fact that this is a politician that knows exactly, as dumb as she is, knows exactly what to do to get people distracted so they don't criticize her policy. So they're like, well, at least she's inclusive.
Yeah. Well, fam, I'm done with that shit. And they can take their sensitivity and shove it where the sun don't shine. I'm so sick and tired. Those people don't even bother with me anymore because I let them know. I'm like, you know what, dude? Take your sensitivity and shove it. This is the real world over here. This is really what your American exceptionalism about, is that you could sit there and try to make these things an issue. Do we care about inclusivity when it comes to foreign policy and war? Do you think the people who are getting bombed over across seas care the fact that Lloyd Austin is a man of color now? Do you really think they care? This is fucking ridiculous. And you're just using this as an excuse because you're a narcissistic individual and you want to be part of the white knight savior group and stuff like that and make it about yourself. Look at me, fam. I'm doing the right thing. I'm being sensitive to their needs. I'm being sensitive to Kamala Harris because she's a woman of color and the first one to do that. You're being insensitive about calling her out. Yeah, we're calling her out and you're sitting there and you're propping her up about things that make no difference. They have no factor into play when it comes to our foreign policy and our economic policy. It's just your little freaking circle and echo chamber group that you want to be special in, and it wanted to be about you and your narcissism. Go scratch. I'm glad. If you're looking at Fee being insensitive for calling it out, you better check your own goddamn head. Fam, before I get any more worked up and you got to get some rest, take a look at the last part, because this is what the thing we're talking about. The friggin' announcer just pointed out, the commentator, the journalist, or whatever who was interviewing him, pointed out the fact that Ned Price, regime change specialist Ned Price, is dragging his feet too slow on providing weapons to the Ukraine. Holy cow, fam. We reached an all-time low.
We're asking for.
Well, it's been the holdup all along. Even when I was out there last year, what the Ukrainians were hearing from the White House was that stingers were too provocative. They were too escalatory. Anti-ship missiles to help defend their ports were too provocative. And so this kind of fear of Putin and the fear of what he might do is still driving our policy. And when you take that approach, for a dictator, they're going to push until they meet steel. And I think that is giving him room to escalate. My fear is that you're going to see chemical weapons next as Putin drives up that escalation ladder. And then separately, Tony, look, let's get serious about the sanctions. The Biden administration's patting themselves on the back for tough sanctions. Yet even the newest ones Biden just announced have loopholes for Putin's energy sector. They are still bringing in billions of dollars a week from European countries who are all, proclaiming their support for Ukraine. They need to take the tough measures and cut off his revenue. And by the way, China is still doing business. Countries like South Africa and Brazil, not to mention India. We need to get serious and have some tough conversations with them too, including putting on the table secondary sanctions on their banks and companies that are doing business with Russia.
There you go. There you go, fam. He's talking about the BRICS. He's talking about making more enemies. He's talking about sanctioning people. He's talking about doubling down, and everybody gets out of line with the American foreign policy and their regime change playbook or their sanctions playbook, that they should be punished too. He was talking about all those countries that were getting together, and all those countries that control all the resources, by the way, and saying we need to punish them more. And all the sophisticated weaponry that, that we're not giving them, it's a sin. We should be providing the Ukrainians with as much advanced weaponry no matter what. They just had a Switchblade drone, fam, on the other side of the border in Russian proper kill a couple people yesterday. These are United States made drones now killing people in Russia. How's that going to end up, fam?
Russia's going to respond just like China's going to respond, and you're not going to be in a very good position.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us today on the YouTubes. You guys are amazing. Over 340 people at one time without the bell going off for a lot of people who've been telling us who haven't been getting warned warned. Please do us a favor. Every time you see us going live, hit that thumbs up button, hit that share button, get it out there. And if you haven't got a chance, go on over to our Rokfin. That's Rokfin. Follow the Convo Couch. And if you got a few extra bucks, $9.99 a month gives you our premium content and everybody else on the platforms premium content across the board for that one price. But as you know, Fam makes a rule. She doesn't want anything behind a paywall. You can always go back and watch our live streams and catch every single bit of the Convo Couch. And then when we do clip it up and you're a member, watch that premium thing until we release it for free. Usually we do it on the COVID or the jab stuff. So please just do us a favor and go over there and just sign up for at least for Rokfin if you can while you got the chance. We're almost at 32,000, at 34,000 people. Where are we at, Fam? We're getting up there. We're moving up the change there. We're still moving up the change in our YouTube. And thank you to all our Patreons who helped us out. And of course, we have a Give, Send, Go. It's givesendgo.com/support the Convo Couch if you want to throw a few extra bucks our way. It does really mean the world to us. And fam, we are going to fire up the stuff soon, and we're going to be announcing within the month, within a couple weeks, our trip to Brazil to go watch that election as well. Bolsonaro versus Lula, and that's on October 2nd. That's on a Sunday. We'll see what happens there, fam. Anything else to add?
No, fams, that's it.
Do you will you be on RT tonight?
I don't know if I make it in because you talk too much.
Okay, I gotta stop talking because fam needs to get some sleep. Guys, go to.
I'm not gonna sleep.
Odyssey.
I've literally no time now.
Go.
I will see you guys later.
Blaming me now, but I don't care. I'm gonna keep her here. Guys, go to Rumble, go to Odyssey, follow RT live stream, watch Fee live. She's been killing it. Thank you so much. For Pasta Jardula,
Fiorella,
and Oz, thank you for joining our soft opening.
What?
Nothing. I'm just talking shit because Steve's in the chat.
Combo out. Bye, guys.